Welcome to the Hanson Board of Selectmen meeting. Tonight is Thursday, March 12th. This meeting is being taped on cable, and will you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Public. We don't have public announcements, do we? Did you just put that on there for?
Oh, yeah, no, that was...
Dear God,
yes.
Okay.
No.
Okay, new business. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Sullivan. Always good to see you. I wish it was under better circumstances. You're kind of like, we always see you at a funeral, so to speak. So that said, discussion of the Whitman-Hanson Regional School Committee FY21 budget. Tonight, there will be a school committee meeting at 7 o'clock, and as we know, and I do not have a written statement, and you guys can breathe a sigh of relief at that, as we know, the Whitman folks have dug in on statutory, the school committee's taken a vote on statutory, and tonight is when they will decide on the budget. So they've decided on the methodology of the assessment, which thus far has been voted in to be statutory. And tonight they will be lowering the boom on the budget. So, Mr. Stanbrook, did you want to tell us, before us we have got an analysis that you have done?
Yes.
Did you want to give us a brief update on that, or shall we start with Mr. Sullivan and his thoughts?
Sorry,
Sorry, I didn't mean to volley that to you. Okay.
Did he give the
Yeah.
I just gave it to him.
Okay.
So I don't know how much we've sort of discussed. You and I have had some email conversations, but I think we've been anticipating this number for quite some time after the initial budget presentation. I think we all came to the conclusion that you could probably knock out the requested so that this was going to settle out on the number. The last update we had from Todd, the original estimate we had from Todd, the town alone at I think it was 4.5% increase. We were already 300,000 in the hole.
Right.
Added on top of this, our number comes out to about $1.87 million that we'll have to. There's not 1.8.
If they stick with this number.
If they stick with this number
Yep.
right here.
And it stays
1.8.
statutory.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. If
Okay.
it stays statutory, if it stays with the number that's there, we're looking at about $1.87, $1.88 million in deficit that we'll have to overcome. We've earmarked some places already where we believe the first round of cuts will go. We're looking at different options. I've asked Todd for sort of a general breakdown as to, what does a 10% reduction look like across all town departments. He's working on that. We're looking at some other key focused points. Some of the big ticket items, police department's one of them we're looking at closely. We know there's going to be some money that can come back from there, from the regionalization of communications. It's not enough to solve the problem, so we're looking at every and all options that are on the table. We haven't crossed anything out. I think our goal would be to trim the town's budget as much as possible without significantly impacting services. We've gotten to, they corrected me last night, with the exception of the library, we have added back all the positions that had been cut. 10 years ago when we had to make cuts, we've added back and increased the staffing on most departments. And I think, I don't think anyone wants to see a reduction in services, certainly. So there is a small amount of money that can be trimmed out of the budget, but anything over a certain percentage, you're gonna have to start cutting personnel. So, I think our goal is to get this number down to a reasonable level where we would have to present an override to the town. No one likes that override word, but it's a matter of how much can we cut out of the budget to get it to what would be a more reasonable. Obviously, we don't want to look at just kicking this to an override and putting a question before the town of $1.88 million, because it's not going to happen. We know that. So for us, it becomes sort of a balancing level. Can we maintain the amount of services that the townspeople are used to, while at the same time, squeezing the budget, and then in the end have to go maybe for an override? Unless there's some sort of drastic switch or shift that happens tonight, or I know we put in for some grants, but that's not going to get us. We've never seen a deficit that I've been doing this since 2012, and we've never close to seeing a number this large that we've had to overcome.
And as precipitous and sudden. I mean, like usually you can kind of see the train coming at you on the track. This is like all of a sudden the train is upon us. That's a great framework. That is good. What we're hoping for is that the school committee tonight will recognize that this is not Hanson's problem alone to solve, that it is not something that we should be expected to respond to and turn around on a dime. It's irresponsible to do that. We'd never ask any of our other partners to do that, and yet we're being asked to do that. So I'm hoping that the school committee comes down on what they've, their last stated budget was, and that our brethren in Whitman will also see what they might be able to put on the table to lessen the blow. And I think if we make some cuts, we can get a little cooperation from everybody, we can get that number down. I also absolutely do not want to do an override, but ultimately the voters will decide on that. We have put a placeholder in the warrant just in the event that we have to have that.
And again, like as you mentioned, it comes down to what the voters decide they want to do. Because we joke around, but there's only so much money you can get, and your options are to drastically cut services, which I think we're all in town are used to a certain level of service from the town. I think we enjoy where we're at. So the only other option is to go another route. Yeah. Again, unless some sort of drastic policy shifts happen, next hour.
Well, I think Bob was looking at the deadline, and I don't know, John, if you would know when they actually have to get their official budget.
I think it's tonight.
I think it's tonight
He
as well.
seemed to think it might be the 20th. But I don't know. And then, there's a lot of other balls in play, of course, with the coronavirus. Now they're talking about potentially postponing town meetings, and then you'd be backing into a different deadline, right, if the town meeting date changes. Oh, well, speak of the devil.
All right, later was a week.
Oh, well, I actually wasn't even expecting you, so it's a pleasant surprise. We were actually literally just talking about what is your deadline for the budget?
I'm assuming, making assumptions, that tonight it may get voted.
But what's your drop dead date?
The drop dead date, as the attorney said, and this is coming right from the attorney, is the 30th of March,
Okay.
which I say 45 days. He says March 30th. I said 45 days. He's an attorney. He said March 30th. So I'm not sure whether, as you know, Duxbury just sent their town meeting into May. I think it was supposed to be tonight.
Thank you.
And I'm not sure what's going to happen. Tomorrow is a conference call with the Department of Education on what is going to happen with schools.
Yep.
Some
Really? You're
No,
coming
no,
and
no.
spreading coronavirus here?
Some
What?
schools have already taken off 2 weeks. Some schools,
A month?
some schools took off a month.
Yep.
As far as I know, the DESE has waived the 180-day mandatory.
Yes, I saw that.
So if the school departments, I don't know how it's going to go because the call is tomorrow. If they determine to take off 2 weeks, there's been many suggestions today. Again, the committee hasn't discussed any of this, and the superintendent. I'm just reading the internet, so to speak, of some people have suggested do away with April vacation. There's all kinds of suggestions out there, but we'll know tomorrow what's.
From what I read from DESE and then some of the state stuff, the 180 or 185, whatever the rule is, day rule will be waived, but kids can't be in school any later than June 30th. So regardless of what ends up happening in between.
There's an end date.
Yeah.
That they have to get out of school. There is an end date. So regardless of how this goes, I'm assuming the state, like other places, trying to wrap their arms around it and contain it. And by having meetings of, as we had discussed, less than 20, I mean, school committee meeting, if it wasn't an important meeting this evening, I probably would have canceled.
Yeah, yeah.
But part of the guidelines, and again, there's different states, different people throwing out different things about how many amount of people should be in a meeting room, and, you know.
And I think we're getting off topic.
We are. We've got to get back on.
But Kenny and I were upstairs talking, and I think we should visit this before this meeting is over, on certain things that we can do, whether it's at the school or at town hall or in this meeting room. But I'd like to get back onto.
You mean as far as coronavirus? Mm-hmm. That is on our agenda for next week. We have fire, police, and Board of Health coming to talk to us about it. I don't have it as a posted agenda item. However, we can waive that in these types of circumstances. But let's try to wrap this up with a bow, and then we can.
That'd be great.
Yeah, if we've got time, we can do that. Okay, so Bob, where we were at was Kevin was just telling us that we're going to have to, if the number that was presented at the last school committee meeting ends up staying, that we will be looking at drastic cuts and an override, which we can't promise will happen. Basically, I was saying what I've said to you, what I've been saying to the Whitman guys, this isn't just a Hanson problem. It's a school problem, it's a district problem, it's a Whitman problem, and it's a Hanson problem. And I am hoping that this evening the school committee will not be tone deaf to the fact that this just can't be just Hanson solving this problem. And appreciate this move to statutory, which you didn't have any control over, and the guys from Hanson on the school committee didn't have any control over. But that said, even going to statutory, we'd need, particularly going to statutory this year, we would really hope that you guys in the spirit of partnership will come as far down as you possibly can, because we're going to have to do that, and so we would expect that partnership. Mm-hmm. And I know you're just one voting member, so, you know, you can only speak for yourself. Anything that we should know about that you're on the budget that you're thinking about? Okay.
There's nothing different or new. We're going to go back over it this evening.
Did we figure out the technology line item? Did we figure out I think the last school committee meeting, Mr. Lyman.
The paper that I handed out here is from the superintendent, and it is that amount under Hanson, 117,969.
Okay. I recognize that they're saying that amount is under Hanson. What I'm questioning is, ought it be under Hanson? And let me clarify. We voted for this as a capital item. What Frank mentioned, and what I thought it bears looking into, was, don't we have that? Because I remember Todd speaking to us specifically about that under our own budget. And if that's the case, then it ought not to be under the school budget as well, because we've accounted for it separately. Does what I'm saying make sense to you?
Yes, we have accounted for it separately. You're right.
So then that we're getting double counted for the same item. The school can't assess us for the same item we already have our own assessment for. Does what I'm saying make sense to you?
Yes.
Okay. So I know it's not a lot, but it is $117,000, and Frank did mention this, and I was hoping that the district would have looked into it in the interim in response to Frank's feedback, but since it's still there, but we need that resolved. Again, it's not a lot, but every little $100,000 adds up, so.
Is this on the AC units?
No, it is not. It is on the technology. Okay, Mr. Stanbrook, is there anything did you want to walk us through what these scenarios were?
Just real quickly, sure, thank you. So this first sheet is from the superintendent of what is going to be discussed tonight, which I'm sure Bob already has. The second sheet is, I took the superintendent's numbers and put I guess it would be fair to say that this is a level service, and in one scenario, level service plus 280 budget that we're going to be voting on tonight. And so what I did was I took scenario 1, which is on the sheet here is letters A through C. That's the required funding level without the add-on, just required only, and did a comparison of assessments. I added non-mandated busing and capital all into one, and then compared the two from last year to this year. And as you can see under A, B, and C, the increase to Hanson is 21%, 21.49%. The second scenario that may come up tonight, again from the superintendent's sheet, is the required amount plus the 4 teachers. Again, that would be 22.58% or $2.3 million to Hanson. And then scenario 3 would be, I guess, the equivalent if the town had a level service budget. This is from Todd's original budget projection about a month ago now, maybe 5 weeks ago. The columns G, H, and I under FY21. So I guess that's the level service budget of where we would be, or a $357,000 increase, or a 3.5%. So again, letters J and K show the scenario 1 amount minus the no override amount, our level service budget the way we are right now, and the difference is $1.83 million, which is, if you base it on fiscal year 20's tax rate and values, we can't base it on anything to do with fiscal year 21 yet, because we haven't set the tax rate and we haven't got the values. So we have to use the last known amount. If this were in fiscal year 20 and we had done this, it would have been $1.29 per thousand of value for someone's house. The average single-family house in town for fiscal year 20 was $354,368. So the amount of an override under scenario 1, if we were to have done this last year, is $457. So that's how to read the sheet. Again, L and M is the scenario 2, which is required plus the $280,000 for the 4 teachers. And then it would be $1.37 based on FY20's values. And again, that would be $485 for the average single-family home. I'm rounding the numbers off. Now, this would be over and above any other increase that would normally come just from going up 2.5% plus new growth. Again, I have the budgeted amount of. Again, Todd has a budget of that. So just ordinary increase, which is 2.5% plus new growth, the increase to someone's property taxes forecast for 3.34%. So that would be on top of this 3.34. So this would be an additional amount. I don't know if it's helpful or not, but it helps me to kind of spell out, where we are. That it's 1.8 million or 1.9 million is the difference between a school level funded budget, a level service budget, I'm sorry, and a town level service budget. As of right now. I don't know if that makes sense.
John, if they did the level service budget but added the 4 teachers,
yes,
what would that look like? Is that one of your scenarios?
that's scenario 2.
Okay.
So that'd be a $1.95 million difference between our level service and that budget, which would be the $485 for an average single-family home.
That's for the required funding plus 4 teachers.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, so where L and M is?
Right, but I'm asking if it's level funded
Oh, level funded.
and they add the teachers. So it really isn't level, but you start with level and you add the 4 teachers. What does that look like?
I didn't do that scenario.
How much are the 4 teachers?
280,000. Oh, sorry. He could.
280?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, so
Roughly.
280 plus you've got, I think it was 357, so You're always the one who adds up
Yeah,
like
you're
this.
talking
Quick-
away
quick-
from me, though. I
okay.
can't really.
640,
Oh.
round the numbers off.
Huh?
630, 640.
Okay, so 630, 640. And is that something that, Kevin, you think we might be able to do if they were going to do a level funded and add 4 teachers back?
I have them marked up.
As far as over and top of what they already have.
No. Yes.
I appreciate it.
So if we do level funded
Look at you take it.
with 4 teachers, so we're looking at max 650 for increase over last year, what we paid last year. Is that something we could do without drastic cuts? I know we'll have to still,
I'd have to go back and look at some of the other numbers. I mean, if it's justice, so you're talking about a 650K increase vice the 1.88 that we're projecting right now.
yeah.
I mean, we could lessen that, we could get close to that. I think that's achievable in the budget with the cuts that we have lined up. And cuts and savings over programs that are no longer active in the town. It would, again, require cooperation on the part of the town. We saw what happened last year when FinCom made attempts to trim budgets and bring things in line, and the town meeting voted to fully fund them all the way, and it threw the numbers off. So again, I can probably get there, but it's going to take cooperation from other people in the town, and we saw what happened last year. We had a very reasonable plan to try and save some money, to trim services for things we saw coming down the road, and 1 or 2 towns, people rallied support and just threw the whole budget.
They were quasi-sacred cows, that's why. I know what you're saying,
We say that, but we've got to stop thinking like that, because we're in a real...
Oh, I'm not saying sacred to me, I'm saying sacred to the people who spoke about them.
Absolutely, I'm not saying you,
Yeah.
but I'm saying we have to get over that in this town. Everyone has their own sacred cow project that, when you get together, and it's especially these outliers that are outside of the budget control, outside of the budget process, that they just go sideways on us, and now we're back to in a hole that we have to cut. So
recreation and, I always want to call it the dump, which I know is politically
It's all
incorrect,
right.
and the transfer station. Have you been circling back with them and talking, and have we heard from Ms. Diaz on whether there's a plan to cut the days? Because this is obviously going to come up again, and we haven't solved anything, and it's been...
we played our cards last time and said, listen, here's the number you need to do. This is a sustainable plan, and it was turned down on all, by the townspeople, and that's their right. That's what they're there to do. They're there to decide what they want for services. So, we're not we and the FinCom are looking for different solutions. I can tell you right now, you can save some money by trimming down the hours of the transfer station. But we all know that. And, looking at getting real tight with the camp. Both of them are great things that we have in this town that other towns don't. But again, they fall in that sacred cow category where people don't want to touch those funds for some reason. And so now you're looking at, okay, people don't want to cut down the transfer station or the camp, but where I can cut funds is the police.
Do they want to
and the
cut
fire.
police?
So do you want me to cut police and fire, or are you willing to be more reasonable? Last year, they said they wanted, if we had to make cuts last year, it would have had to come from some town department that we didn't control.
I feel confident that if the choice on the table was police or the transfer station, I feel pretty confident it would be the transfer station.
We've all been in there, but
I don't think that the choice was quite put that way. I know it was,
this is a greater number, so, there's some that we're gonna pull from mainline town departments, but, everyone chipping in and reducing usage, hours, cutting down on what they bring in, it'll help.
it all adds up.
To get there.
Yeah, okay.
I think if we're looking at 650, we might be able to get the 650 is a lot easier than 1.9 to get.
Oh, this is just me throwing that out. I have absolutely no influence whatsoever on the school committee.
We jumped at the chance to find 650.
Yeah. And, you know, I think the important thing to remember with the school committee is, well, with the district really, is that we can give whatever amount of money that they want, but we can't dictate how it's spent. So even if we all agree, like, you know what, we can come up with this amount because we want you to restore those 4, you know, put those 4 teachers in so the classroom sizes are reduced and all that stuff. We can say that, and we can, you know, we can really mean that that's how the money is going to be spent, but we relinquish all control over how that money is spent once we vote the budget in. So I think would be hopeful that it would be spent that way, but, you know, we can't make it be spent that way. Okay, Kenny, anything?
Yeah, I think that we have to, and along with what Kevin said with the cuts, and then hopefully with the school committee coming down a little, I just think we have to start thinking more towards a solution, and I think the solution is to do an override. The only question is, how much is that override going to be? But I really believe we need to start thinking that way. You know, like when you mentioned about the school committee tonight, they're not going to be changing the methodology tonight. I mean, that's not realistic.
Well,
And sorry, Kenny, to go with that, what you were saying with, I think we need to take a real hard look next year at where the tax rate is set. As far as if we know this is gonna happen again next year.
Yes.
If it's the same method next year, the only way to get by this is to increase the tax rate. And no one wants their taxes higher. I don't want my taxes
But that's
higher.
not something we vote on, so that's a little easier
Right.
getting done.
Right, exactly. That's something that's an administrative, you know, when the tax rate is set, but that's after the fact, so.
it is after the fact.
We're gonna,
Yeah.
but, you know, this isn't, an override is the one-time solution to get us over this
This bump.
issue, but, you know, Desi isn't gonna
Yeah.
change and Whitman isn't gonna change. We know we're gonna be in the same exact scenario again next year.
Yeah, so I think we
You're
work as
absolutely
tight.
right. You're right.
We work as tight as we possibly can on the budgets with you and Todd. But I think that override, we have to, because we have to educate, we don't want to lose services.
No, we
There's
do
no
not.
way we want to
No.
lose. If we have to lay off police and fire, if you lay off 4 police officers or 4 firemen, you're not going to get those people back. And you've got,
I
you're
agree, and they've done
invested in these people.
they've done good work getting good
Right.
people.
And then to replace them, when we figure it out in a year or 2 down the road, it's going to cost us, you know, twice as much to train them and.
Kevin, which leads me to my question, because you brought it up.
Sure.
Next year. What's the budget look like next year? You must have some number in mind.
That's why, you know, I'm looking at this and it's not like we've seen a decrease each year in the budget. You know, this was a big jump for us. Usually,
So,
you know, so the you know.
if I may,
Yeah.
the $457, which could be increased
Right.
to the people.
Right.
Next year, that 457 isn't going away, and it might be 489.
That's worst case scenario, by the way. I just want to make sure that people. know
Okay,
that's
best,
worst
what's our
If
best
the
case?
override passes.
What's the best case scenario?
case. Well, if it was at 1 point,
Because I saw a number about a month ago that said
1.2.
$240, and we're
Yeah.
not close to that right now.
No.
That's more than double. That's 142% more.
Correct.
yeah.
So give me the best case scenario.
What's
Best
that?
case scenario.
Off the top of your
next
head.
year, as far as what, an override? Or-
Instead of the
That's the-
Well,
450.
that, I mean, that's based on the tax rate. I haven't broken it down by tax rate.
Okay.
But what and that tax rate is that's basing it off the tax rate for an override. So if you were to increase the tax rate, it would be, we'd have to look and see how much increasing the tax rate each percentage point would increase revenue overall, vice the speed at which the school district's budget is increasing. Because we can look at the numbers from DESI, you can see the steady climb of the budget. And now, you know, our minimum contribution is 9 million this year. Well, you know, we're not gonna change that a lot in the next year because it's based on
So,
housing. So I don't know the exact tax rate percentage.
okay, so let's just pull a number out of the hat, $300 instead of 457. We'll just use 300. It's a nice, easy, round number. So according to what you just told me, and everything going up, that 300 next year could be 360.
Could be.
And then the year after that, it could be 450.
It's going to be more.
Right.
There's no way,
Until,
yeah.
you know, because of the way it's factored.
Yeah?
Yeah.
until we're below our minimum requirement, I think, for low-income housing.
Yes.
Which affects our number.
Yep.
We don't have we build residential homes. We don't have a lot of commercial business.
No.
The majority of our tax rate is based on, I forget the exact percentage, but I think it's 90% of our.
92.
It's,
92 is based on residential housing.
Yeah.
It's not that in Whitman. I mean, you drive through Whitman, they've got a lot of.
And that's why we keep the tax rate the same.
That's why.
Yeah.
So we don't scare that 8%.
Yeah.
That's right. So we've got a and that's sort of the preface for next year, and I don't want to get too hung up on that, is we're looking at a one-time solution to get us, no one wants the override. I agree with Kenny. I think it will come to a certain, it's how big is the override this year? And then next year we look at how do we solve this through the normal workings of how the town is. And that would be by increasing the tax rate. That would be, we're always trying to bring in new businesses. If we get other projects that come that way, we've got to hit the ground running with grants, really pound it in with, in that manner. But, I think this isn't, it's a big deficit this year, and next year it may be, 3% over the 9 million, which is still way different from where we were last year. So I think it's a matter of, we've hit the big uptick in the slope, and now we can probably look at a fairly steady growth, and our growth doesn't usually keep pace with the increase in the budget.
So we've got to get through this year with a hopefully very modest override.
Yeah.
And then,
Because the other thing is,
Yeah.
if the override doesn't pass, maybe we can limp along until October and run it again and educate the people that, do you want a slight increase in your taxes, or do you want to lose services?
if the override doesn't pass, then we're going to be looking at the whole supercharger,
Right, with
yeah.
the state,
the whole
which
state
none of us
stepping
want.
in. And, yeah, but that would be July, they'd step in, and then they'd take fiscal control by December if we can't figure it out. And if they come in July, then they
So
do.
could we still, if it didn't pass, still fix it in October if that happened?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. And in fact, the people from the Mass Association of Regional Schools and practically everybody else that we've talked to, Desi and everybody else, has said, you know what? This happens a lot where the two towns don't agree, and initially the state steps in and the school gets the 1/12 budget based on 2020 budget, which is real severe austerity measures for them. They'll probably have to cut. And somehow that watching the school system go through that makes the two towns want to come back together again and figure out a solution, and then that would be at the October meeting. It's got to be done before December or fiscal control happens, and that gets ugly, real ugly.
Maybe we can convince Whitman to get a mediator on behalf of both towns to step in and try to work this out so we can gradually, over the next 2 or 3 years, get to the number.
Well, that is a controversial little theory, Mr. Mitchell, and I like it. I do. I like it. Mr. Hickey, anything? Oh,
I
okay.
said what I had to say.
Okay. All right. So, I mean, I don't think we need to really take a vote. We just, we've got the placeholder for the override. We've really got so many placeholders, we can pivot any way we want once we get the final number. So we're good on that. Okay, so if we don't have anything else on that, did we want to?
Yeah, no, so I wanted to mention what I had mentioned to Jim earlier, which Jim started, I don't want to.
Yeah, no, John had, John, what did you call it? An emergency? Where the board
Preparedness.
chair
Talk
can
about, we
declare.
can talk about something that's not.
Usually,
State of emergency.
and it's possible that you can have something on the agenda that says, any other items not reasonably known by the chair 48 hours in advance.
Right.
That could be an agenda item. If you have that on there, then you can talk about something that comes up, it gives you the right to talk about something that came up, an hour ago. And it has, as long as you have that in there.
But we don't have
people
that on
know
this agenda.
So, I mean, we don't have that.
Are we sure that we have to have that on there? I thought that was just an open meeting law, period, and I thought that was.
I don't think it has to be on
Okay,
there.
all right, so I think
That's
we
what we're
can
talking
still
about.
discuss it, and I think in light of the fact that the World Health Organization just declared a pandemic, we can say that this
Yeah.
was something we couldn't reasonably
And so-
predict.
I'm sorry.
I'll go first with
okay.
what I was thinking,
Go ahead.
because of the high school with all the activities, not
Yes.
just including sports, but any kind of outside activity. that they should be put on hold until further notice, considering Major League Baseball, Major League Soccer, and the NHL, and the NBA, and 5 major NCAA tournaments have already canceled until further notice. I understand, Bob, that we can't rule for inside the school, but the grounds of the high school is on Hanson property. So, I mean, I would like to see all.
So are you, again, you couldn't reasonably expect, I don't know, maybe you could, but are you talking about this tonight at all? Are you?
Yes.
Okay. all
Oh,
right.
good.
Okay.
Oh, it's on the
Yeah,
agenda
okay.
about the virus.
Okay, all right, so just so that everybody knows, because there hasn't been a lot of citizen-facing communication about this, and you know, because it's really one of those things, it's just quickly evolving, and there really isn't much to say other than our professionals, the Board of Health, Police, and Fire, are doing what they do best and get paid to do, which is keeping track of it, working on their emergency preparedness, and communicating amongst each other. That said, I did ask John if next week, if we could just have all those folks come and talk, and just sort of, really more for the, I'll see you at the meeting, more for the folks that might be concerned about it, because I have seen people posting on social media that they're concerned, they don't know what to do, et cetera, et cetera. We just canceled the food pantry fundraiser because, you know, I couldn't, there were a bunch of elderly people that volunteer at the food pantry, and I can't have that happening, you know, I don't want to be
So my
affecting people.
suggestion, you know, along with what Jim just said is, you know, like Tuesday night, we have a big agenda.
We do.
You're gonna have a lot of people in here, and like, we're gonna be promoting a police officer, and then we're gonna be swearing in a police officer.
I thought about that, I know.
And I think that these police officers, we don't hold them from doing their jobs. They should be able to go to Beth, get sworn in, but then we do the family show, and it's not a show, it's very important, but we do the family gathering when we have all the police at a later date.
I agree with
And
that.
I think that
I agree.
on that meeting on Tuesday night, we shouldn't, thank you, Kevin.
Thanks, Kevin.
We shouldn't have a room full,
I
in light of what's
100%
going
agree.
on, and just have, I know the fire chief and the police chief, you know, just the essentials here with us making a decision
Yeah.
until this thing,
Yeah, John,
you
can
know,
you guys have
go
that happen?
away and,
You know, like,
you
we
know?
don't want to, we're not trying to give short shrift to the people that are getting sworn in, and to Sergeant Andrews, who's leaving, and, you know, any of that. We're really, with all due respect, but it's really because we care about them, and we don't want a whole group of people, I mean, that would be just catastrophic to
Right.
have us infect, or have somebody there infect the whole police
because
force.
when we do that, the whole room
Yeah,
is
no,
full. And I
100%.
just think that, you know.
Yep.
And I don't know what else is, I know we have, because we haven't met in a few weeks, and I know we had put some stuff off, but, and anything else that's on the agenda that's, you know, any people or a bunch of people that maybe can wait I just think we should just
I
look
think
at that.
that was the
So we
major
can
item.
minimize the amount of
Just
people.
the coronavirus,
Yeah.
I
and
think that's
there
it.
was
Checking
a
it
woman
out.
Okay,
from
good.
a consortium.
But I don't know how you get it out to the public, but.
she's been moved.
You know, I would say it's just a selecting meeting until further notice. We're in a state of emergency,
Yep,
so
yep.
I believe we're absolutely justified in just
we are.
not
And it's
open
on
the
TV.
doors to the
Yeah.
public, and it's on TV.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's totally fine.
Just,
There-
I won't be here.
There's actually no requirement that you allow people, you know, like, it has to be posted, it has to be public. Can we look into whether we're required to let people
Yeah.
come in? I just, you know,
Everything changes
What did
under
they
the state
say
of
today?
emergency.
yeah,
and that's-
yeah.
John went to a meeting today in East Bridgewater. Did they
They're trying
address
to,
that?
well, what they talked about was moving back town meeting dates.
Yes.
Even though bylaws state they have to be held
Yeah.
here as a certain day, still moving back, being able to move back that date because of this emergency. They also said, went into, you know, the Board of Selectmen of towns can declare emergencies and what they could do with it. So the person that was speaking is our labor council, but they're East Bridgewater's general counsel, and I asked him to come up with like a fact sheet. I'm hoping if I get that by Tuesday, he's going to be in here for an executive session on Tuesday. I'm hoping he brings that fact sheet, and we can maybe we can talk about that in open session. Exactly everything that he said. It was
Oh, good,
it was
Yes.
about a half an hour, 45 minutes of all, you know, a lot of the real quickly what he said was a lot of these laws haven't been used in
Years.
100 years or so.
Yeah.
One of them says that if you have to send someone home because of a quarantine, you have to pay them $2 every day. So, I mean, that's that far along, a while ago.
I'm sure the union would be happy with that one.
A little more than I make now.
So it's stuff like that, so.
No, so that's good. So we'll have all of the people that are part of our emergency preparedness. We'll have John Clifford.
Yes.
And by then, we'll have all participated. Did you guys get the invite from MMA? Kenny and Jim, there's a call tomorrow at 3 o'clock. I'll have Greer forward it to you.
No, I got the cancellation.
No,
for
there's
the
a call
meeting.
tomorrow at 3 o'clock
Okay.
for local town officials.
Okay, so maybe that came today, so
yeah.
it's probably in my
Okay.
email.
All right, I'll forward it, and if you have it, you can just delete it,
Okay.
but, and, you know, just, I think this is an unusual situation, which we have not all been through, and,
Right.
you know, I'd rather ask the questions now than if we get in the thick of things. So,
That was it.
okay, anything else? Okay, I will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Okay, great.